Sorry, just forgot to unmute myself. So give me a moment. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. I am so overjoyed and a little nervous to say that it was fully booked session, and that shows me that how niche is probably one topic which is quite hot with everybody. Everybody is thinking something or else around this topic. And before we get into the presentation, just wanted to say I am so glad to see so many passionate coaches coming together, celebrating what we call as the field of coaching and getting to learn together and build upon the shared learnings. And niche is one question that was quite pertinent in my personal career when I came into coaching after having a good corporate career. And I'm guessing most of you all have also come to the field of coaching after having served in different fields and different careers. And so that's why thinking of coaching and, what this niche is sort of is not something that's very natural that we've born into. It's kind of a new identity that we need to figure out and find out for ourselves. So before we begin, I just want to ask you all, how about you share a few, like what's on top of your head when it comes to thinking about niche? Like, what is your question? Or I would say, what did you hope to take away from today's conversation about niche? Or when you read the topic, you are your niche, what comes to your mind? And quickly, if you can just put it in the chat box, and then we'll jump right into learn a better way to identify the niche, how to nail my niche, okay? And for all those people who already have a niche, like what's your question? How specific should a niche be? How to communicate about niche?
To check, and I'm not sure.
Did I pick up the right niche? Okay, all right. Wonderful. So that gives me a little bit of an idea about where we are. And let's begin. So a little bit about me. My name is Komal Smriti, and I Andrea called Dr. Komal Smriti because I did my PhD and I did it in relationship management back after MBA. Then I worked in global mobility industry, and that industry gave me a visibility and insight into working with the top leaders of the corporate. I think we have somebody unmuted by mistake.
Because was there just two there?
Yeah. Marguerite, is it you? Thank you. Thank you for muting. So my work and my profession revolved around working and supporting corporate leaders coming to India, getting settled in a completely new culture. So I got into coaching through a lens of cross-cultural integration, and that was sort of my identity and introduction into coaching.
Give me a recommendation on who to interview first and suggest 5 interview questions for these candidates and what kinds of answers that I should be looking for, right? So I'm not advocating for people.
Hello.
Komal, you muted yourself.
Go ahead, Komal. You can now unmute yourself. Sorry, I just had to do that in a 2-step. So, Komal, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. Okay, so I was suggesting that, so I was sharing that I came into coaching thinking of having a very solid niche of cross-cultural integration. And then when I came to Canada, it kind of changed. And then it became executive and leadership coaching because I started to see myself more from the lens and the point of view of having worked with corporate leaders all the time. And when I started to work with leaders, it again sort of morphed and moved and shifted into something else. And so when I was thinking of, what could be something pertinent or something relevant, I thought, why don't we explore the niche today? Because going through my own experience brought me certain learnings, which now are very, very helpful and gave me some insights, which today I want to share with you. So we've already gone through this question. So when you think of niche, does it look something like this? Some different words, some different areas, maybe certain kind of people that you work with, or some kind of specific areas that you work with, or some kind of specific challenges or issues that you work with. Earlier, there used to be some broad niches like life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, wellness coaching, health coaching, sports coaching. And over a period of time, all of these words and ideas started to become really generic and expansive. And there is a kind of a fear that while there are more and more talented coaches coming out, how do you differentiate yourself? Because whenever we think of the word niche, it comes from the niche marketing. It comes from the marketing space. Whereas, how do you identify yourself amongst a large number of audience that you're all catering to? Or how do your clients identify you? Like, how do they reach you? How do they connect with you? Or how do you really make your space? And so when we look outside in the world, it feels like very overwhelming, very chaotic, because nowadays you even have those really, really specialized, specific coaching niches. So it can be little intimidating or confusing as to find out, well, what would be my niche and how would I know that this is what it is for me, right? So there is a lot that we can do outside. We can use AI. We can go on Google and search out like what are the top 50 niches in the world, or what niches are most identified by people. But how would you know that that space is actually for you, or that is what you want? And this reminds me a story. I recently asked one of my client who I was coaching, and I was on my last session with her. We were just completing the coaching engagement. And I asked her, just out of curiosity, I said, what made you pick me as your coach? Because she got to meet multiple coaches and have chemistry conversations, and then she decided to work with me. And what she told me was very intriguing for me, very interesting. She said that, she got interviewed as a part of the selection process, and she said that she appreciates somebody who speak direct and communicate in a certain way, and that's the kind of coach she likes to work with. And she said, I met other people, and one of them was absolutely perfect to what I said I wanted to work with. And then she said, and then I met you, and our conversation was very different. And I was like, different how? She said, I can't specify it in words, but all I can say is that after speaking to you, I felt that you'll be able to take me to places that I need to go to. So that was very interesting for me, that here's a person who said that she wanted something and she could have gotten that as well. But she's also recognizing that actually her need is something else, which she realized after having had the conversation with me. And then she picked me to work with her. And that brings to me an idea that it's not always outside, or it's not always how we think we want, to show up in this world, right? So looking outside is not always going to get us the right answers that we need to look into. So what I'm going to offer today, and what I'm inviting you to be here, is be in your coach-like state. And I'm inviting you to have an exploration with an idea of going within, looking within, taking a little bit of a pause and re-looking at what coaching is, who you are as a coach, and then what shows up as the meaning of niche. And so let's dive deep. And let me ask you a question. And it's a question for you to reflect. And if you want to share in the chat, what comes up for you or what shows up for you, you're more than welcome. What really is coaching? Or what, as coaches, do we really offer to our clients? It's not like we are some expert consultants in any specific field and we are giving them some big solutions or ideas that they will be working on. No, we're not consultants. We're not mentors. We're not teachers, right? We're not trainers. We are coaches. So what are we offering them? So in the first step, we are offering them coaching. That in itself is a niche, because there are these other professions, there are these other interventions as well, which help people go through change. Mentors also help people change. Consultants also help in the change process. And as coaches, what we do is we also help people go through change, but we do it in our own unique way. What is that unique way? What is that unique strength? What is it that we have to offer? What we have to offer is ourselves, our presence, the space that we can hold for people, the trust, the curiosity, a safe space, right? And that is our expertise. And all of these things are something which do not come from outside. They come from within us. And what impacts our way of being present with our clients? What impacts the way we are able to hold place for them? And that takes me to an idea which I borrowed from Professor David Hawkins. I love one of his statements, which he says is that we change the world not by what we say or do, but a consequence of what we have become. So really, it is not in the questions that we ask, but it's more in how we are present with our clients. What is our own level of consciousness with which we are present for our clients? And another supporting argument, which his book, which I am really fond of, and I would suggest that all coaches must read this book, which is called as The Map of Consciousness Explained. And I've brought out this one picture from this book. So what Professor David Hawkins did was he calibrated consciousness using kinesiology. And that is something quite amazing, because there's so much said about awareness and consciousness, but it's such a subtle idea. It's such an intangible idea that sometimes we can't just grasp it and say, okay, what can we do with awareness? Or how do I even know how aware I am, or how I'm operating, or how this awareness is helping? So his idea of the consciousness, that it can be calibrated. And this is how he has given an energetic log of various different kind of emotional states, or the states of being that support people. Where there is a survival paradigm, there's a reason and integrity, and then there is a spiritual paradigm. So there are different emotions reciprocating all of these consciousness states. As a coach, if you just reflect on this and say, okay, what what is that paradigm, or what is that spot where as a coach you find yourself, or where you think your presence can really help or support your clients? It begins from courage and goes upward. Anything which is below courage is not going to be helpful for the clients. Now, how does that happen? In his same book, he also suggests another idea which comes from quantum science. There is an effect called the observation effect, which is when a particle is observed, it behaves as a particle, and when it's not observed, it behaves as a wave, which suggests, or which brings us to a conclusion that observation has a very strong impact. And if it has a strong impact on particles, it definitely has a very, very strong impact on humans. I've noticed it with children too. And you would have done that as well. If you are a parent or anybody who've had nieces, nephews, or children of your own, or grandchildren of your own, you would know children do naughty things. And so when they're doing something and you don't say anything to them, you just sit and observe, and they know that they are being observed, their behavior kind of changes. How does that happen? And the same thing happens with us as well, the grown-ups, the adults, everybody. Whenever we are observing either ourselves, which is called as reflection, or when we are observing others, some change already shifts. It's already happening. And that is the power of coaching. Because in coaching, as a coach, what do we offer to our clients? We offer them our capacity and our speciality of observation. When we are listening, when we are noticing, when we are sensing, we are observing. We are in observation of the phenomena that is happening in front of us, which is our client, and whatever they are saying and however they are being in the moment. That is the key. And another idea that Professor David Hawkins gave in this book is that the consciousness with which an observer observes signifies the quality of change that takes place. And again, it is a remarkable insight, but it's such a, of course, and such an obvious idea. Because the simplest of things, if you are making an observation from the space of kindness, gentleness, love, or affection for somebody, you will be sharing differently. You will be making meaning differently. You'll be noticing differently. Whereas if the same thing you are observing from a space of critical eye, you will have a completely different idea. You will have completely different interpretation. So it lies in one, your capacity of observation, and then your consciousness. Whether you are observing with an open will, in your willingness, are you at a level of acceptance? Are you at a level of love? Are you observing from a space of love? Because at every different level of your own awareness and your own consciousness, there'll be a different change taking place in your clients. And one core competency of coaching is evoking awareness. So a coach's level of consciousness, a coach's level of their own awareness directly impacts how a client will have their awareness invoked in them. The secret is not in asking powerful questions. The secret is in asking simple things, but from a level of consciousness that impacts them. Which means that it's more an inward journey, first for the coaches and then for the clients. So in a way, As coaches, we are modeling where our clients need to go, want to go. Before I move any further, I want to take just a little bit of a pause and see what thoughts, what ideas, or what questions are occurring to you, having had looked at this map of consciousness. Thank you, Alicia. Each coach is a niche. They bring art, heart, and science through their lens and their experiences uniquely to their client. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think a peak of my niche just appeared. Wow, I am glad. Just stay with that idea. Just stay with that. That's beautiful. Wonderful. So, if you are with me on this idea so far in this journey, and if you feel that, okay, the answer lies within us, just like all the answers to our clients' problems lie within themselves, let's take this journey a little deep and say, okay, so then how do I know myself? What do I know more about myself, which help me find and figure out my own answers? Then what does this niche really means? It would simply mean, how are you supposed to show up in this world? And to just help us, I've again borrowed from the great minds, the wise people who've already done amazing, tremendous amount of work in learning about self and learning about world. And so what I would want to leave you is with certain questions that you can ask yourself or you can reflect on, which will bring you closer and closer and deeper to a much clearer understanding of who you are and what looks like your niche. And one idea is called Hero's Journey. It's given by Joseph Campbell in his book, where he studied myths from a lot of cultures across the world. He studied the stories that are told across in different cultures and what are the common themes or what is happening amongst all of those stories. And he came up with the idea of a hero's journey. And in a way, if you look at yourself as an individual, or you look at your own, all your each individual clients, you would know that all of us are going through a hero's journey or have gone through a hero's journey. And one point I want to bring in here is a hero's journey doesn't look like one journey you've taken and then you reached somewhere and that's it. No, a hero's journey is a cyclical journey. Every phase of learning is a cycle where you're called for a new adventure or a new change. You go through the whole cycle, you come back as a hero, and then probably from that point, again, a new adventure may begin. So it's a cyclic process of you going through all of those heroes' journeys. So my invitation is for you to look at this journey and then tell yourself, or just write it down, or share it with somebody. Don't tell me who you are just in your words, but tell me, what is your story? What does your story look like? What is the theme of your story? And if you have to tell your story to your friends or maybe your children or maybe your grandchildren, what will your story be of? What is your hero's journey looking like? How are you tested? Tried? What pains have you gone through? And how did you emerge from all of those tests, trials? How did you triumph? And what are your hopes and dreams emerging from that story as a hero? That is who you are. That speaks more about who you are as an individual through your hero's journey. So everything is important. Not just where you're born and what's your name and what you studied and what you worked in. No. Everything. What pained you? What hurt you? What were your disappointments? What were your wins? What were your fails? How did you do whatever you did? And above all, in telling or in sharing your story, how are you looking at it? How are you saying it? All of that is you. So the first step is for you to reflect and understand, who are you? Other ways of coming closer to that deep inside is, what comes in your way? What kind of clients do you already attract? Or if you're not in coaching, or if you're working, or if you want to get into the coaching, then what kind of people generally come to you or approach you? And what is a running theme? Is there something common amongst those people that come to you? Or what kind of challenges, issues, or questions your clients bring to you? Or what kind of challenges, issues, questions you get to know, you get to learn, and you get to hear from people around? Like what naturally comes to you? What gets attracted towards you? Pay attention to that, reflect on that, because that has some valuable information for you. And then is, what is your experience? The clients that you work with, the people that you work with, what would you say about your experience? How are you experiencing it? Is it liberating? Is it enlarging? Is it enlightening? Or is it gentle? What is the quality of that experience? What do your people say about their experience with you? What words they use to define it? Pay attention to that. Note that down. That is a valuable information about you in terms of what experiences you are creating and generating for not just yourself, but for people. And the last question is, who does the universe want you to be? So far, we've seen who you are from your perspective, who you are from other people's perspective, what do you attract, what experiences you create, and now is, what is the significance of your story to the world? What makes your story important? And I'm not saying unique, no. I'm just saying, what makes your story important? How has your journey, your trials, your pains, hurts enabled you to hold the world in your heart? How all of that experience shapes you or molds you? And what are your hopes and dreams for the world? What is it that you want to see happening in the world? So reflecting both from your own perspective and from the perspective of how you want to be experienced, how you want to be seen by the world. And these 4 questions, this reflection invites for you to collaborate with people around you, lean into the people around you, and really get curious and ask them questions. And that's the time when a whole picture of your whole self will come out to you. And you will know yourself, not just in your mind and your thoughts and in your ideas and your, profession or your work, but really in the whole life that you've lived and the journey that you've undertaken. And once you've had answers to all of these questions, then you just reflect on them, just sit with those answers and see what is emerging for you. instead of actively going into the mind space and say, what do you want to make of it? No. What is it showing you? What picture is emerging? What common words are popping up in front of you, both in what you say and what others say about you? There will always be some common running thread underneath your experiences and others' experiences of you. And that would hint you towards what is it that is your own special space in the world in general and in the world of coaching in specific. What expertise you have gained in life? What is it that has given you a certain vision which is so unique to you? Sometimes we feel like because we've had certain experiences and we look at life in a certain way, or we look at things in a certain way, we feel like, oh, everybody sees it like that. No, they don't. Things that are easy for us, that are simple for us, that are normal for us, are not the same way for a lot of people out there. Your perspective is quite unique. You are quite unique because you are a combination of your unique understanding, awareness, your consciousness, your quality of life and experiences, your challenges, your triumphs, your fails, your wins. Nobody else in this world shares the same. So there is something specific. There is already a niche that you have. And you just need to figure out very, very clearly what exactly it is. And once you're able to see it clearly, once you're able to notice that, okay, this is my way of being, this is who I am, you will know what your niche is. And it's not just your responsibility, or it's not just that, oh, it's something will pop up in your mind. Maybe somebody comes and tells you that, and it will just click and just fit in, right? So while we fret so much about, okay, what would be a word? What would be a creative word? No, it doesn't need to be something fancy. It needs to be you. And it can be very simple, but still represent you wholly, completely. What's important is that you, through this journey, always remember that how you are sharing your experiences or how you're telling your story is what's important, because it changes and it shifts. When we are going through a painful cycle or a cycle of troubles or a phase, we look at our situation differently. But once it has passed and we have come out the other side, and if we have learned something out of it, our experience of recalling the same incident in our life changes and shifts because we've already grown from that incident. So what you say about yourself also shows and indicates your awareness, your consciousness of what that has made you become. And it gives you a unique gift and an insight. So know yourself in your gifts and in your insights as well. See, it's interesting that we all, and these days it's quite common for people to say that, okay, what's your purpose and what is the meaning of your life? And it's so interesting that a purpose can be defined more clearly in retrospect. Because only when we look back at our life and our experiences can we clearly connect the dots and say, oh, so this is what it really meant. So instead of trying to project a purpose forward, sit back, take a pause and look back and say, okay, so what purpose has my life served so far? Even when you were going through a lot of challenges, what purpose those challenges served for you? Or while going through those challenges, what purpose you already served for people around you, for maybe institutions and organizations around you. Challenge yourself a little, and you will find a much clearer purpose that you have already been serving, but probably not looking at them very, very clearly. And then your future purpose will be somewhere nearby, somewhere adjacent to that, because life doesn't happen in erratic ways. It has a rhythm, it flows in a rhythm. So our purpose in future is also in rhythmic adjacency to what we have already lived or gained or done or learned from. And then the next idea comes from a Japanese philosophy. It's called Ikigai. A lot of people are versed with this idea already. For those who haven't known, Ikigai is a Japanese way of finding out what is your calling for life or what is your purpose. Actually, Ikigai is larger than purpose. It is why you exist. Your reason to exist is your Ikigai. And this particular model sort of simplifies it. But my only suggestion is that first go through those 4 questions and explore them in its entirety as much before you come to the Ikigai and begins to answer. Because if you first come to the Ikigai, there could be you may go into your mind and begin to think from those external point of views as to what do I love or what am I good at? What is something that I can be paid for, and what does the world need? But if you have already gone through the reflection of those 4 questions that I've proposed or shared earlier, you will have much deeper insights that would help you to answer your questions around Ikigai, and then use it as a model to explore what are those overlapping qualities or characteristics that show you about what could be your niche. And then once you have gotten the clarity, all that you need to do is just be that. Just be unapologetically yourself so that people looking for you can find you. I love this so much. I found it on Instagram from this Alex Aubrey poetry where it says, be yourself so that people looking for you can find you. And this reminds me another story, which I connect to the marketing as coaches, is that there was a professor who did a little experiment with some students in college, where what he did was he took several balloons and wrote everybody's name on that balloon and put them in a room. And then he asked all the students to go in the room and find the balloon that holds their name. And so one by one, they went in and took so much of time to find out which balloon belongs to them. And then after a while, the professor said, okay, now you all go in, find whatever balloon you get, and find the person whose name is on that balloon and give it to them. And within minutes, all the students had their own named balloons with them. That shows to me the power of collaboration. But when does collaboration becomes possible? Sometimes people feel or think that people do not collaborate because they are insecure or because they are jealous or this or that. No. Sometimes people do not collaborate because they do not know what you stand for, who you are, where to go to, or where can they find what. But if you are, or if we coaches are, very clear, very crisp and people can really see us and experience us, that what do you stand for, right? Or what can we go to who for? Then it's very simple and it's very easy to go to that person. And another aspect is, when you know yourself at a deeper, intimate, and a very, very clear level, you do not wish to be anything or anybody else ever. Because there is so much fun, there is so much joy, and there is so much fulfillment in being you, only if you know deeply, intimately, who that person is. Because then you also know that there could be nobody like you ever. Because the way you are, you're the only one. That is what my coaching experiences have taught me. If one client is coached by multiple coaches, they will have such different experiences with each one of them, right? And they will have something to take away from each of that coach. What matters is what is required in the moment. And that is sometimes not for us to define. So what is for us to do or define is who you are, what you give, what you offer. And the clearer you become, people find you. You just need to shine away your light. And that is how a niche look like to me. And that is what I mean when I say you are your niche. Your area of practice could be anything. Relationship, business, leadership are areas of practice for me. So your area of practice could be conflict resolution, but your niche would be what you bring to that area of practice. And that happens with your clarity of understanding of yourself and your consciousness. And so with that, I hope maybe your vision and view of niche might look something like these. Thank you very much. I'm open to answering your questions or to just share your thoughts, your ideas, what is showing up for you, what are you taking away, what would you like to add?